The entire restaurant froze the moment the boy began screaming. Plates rattled, conversations died, and dozens of eyes turned toward the corner table where one of the richest men in the city sat helplessly in front of his son. The boy and Apa's cries were loud, sharp, and desperate, echoing through the quiet afternoon like a storm that no one knew how to stop. The millionaire and Apa's face was pale, exhausted, and filled with a kind of pain that money could never fix. No therapist had succeeded. No teacher could control the episodes. And today, once again, the world seemed too loud, too bright, and too overwhelming for his autistic son. Before we continue this emotional story, take a second to support kindness. If you believe that small acts of humanity can change lives, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Millionaire's Story for more powerful stories like this. It was a bright, peaceful afternoon when Adrian Vance walked into the quiet downtown cafe. Adrian was known across the city as a powerful businessman, the kind of man who owned buildings, companies, and influence. His name appeared in magazines, business journals, and charity galas. But none of those articles ever mentioned the deep loneliness behind his eyes. None of them spoke about his 10-year-old son Milo. Milo was different. The world moved too fast for him. Loud noises felt like thunder in his head. Sudden changes confused him, and unfamiliar environments often sent him into overwhelming panic. Adrian loved his son more than anything, but every day felt like walking through a maze with no map. He had spent millions on specialists, therapy programs, and schools designed for children like Milo, yet there were still moments when nothing seemed to work. That afternoon, Adrian had hoped something simple might help. Just a quiet lunch together. A normal moment between a father and his son. For the first few minutes, things seemed peaceful. Sunlight poured through the cafe windows, warming the wooden tables. The soft hum of conversation filled the room, and Milo sat quietly, tracing patterns on the table with his fingers. Adrian watched him carefully, always alert for the smallest sign of distress. Then the espresso machine hissed loudly. For most people, it was just another cafe sound, but for Milo, it was like an explosion. His hands flew to his ears. His breathing quickened. His chair scraped loudly against the floor as panic rushed through him. Within seconds, he was crying, rocking, overwhelmed by sensations he could not control. Customers stared in confusion. Some whispered. Others moved their chairs away. Adrian tried everything he had learned over the years. He spoke softly, tried to guide Milo and Apa's breathing, gently placed his hands on his shoulders. But Milo and Apa's panic only grew stronger. The noise, the lights, the strangers, it all became too much. The powerful millionaire who controlled billion-dollar deals suddenly looked like the most helpless father in the world. Across the cafe, a young waitress named Elena quietly watched the scene unfold. She had been carrying a tray of drinks when Milo and Apa's cries filled the room. Most people saw chaos, but Elena saw something else. She saw a frightened child trapped inside a storm of sensations. Elena had grown up with a younger brother who was also autistic. She remembered the difficult days, the overwhelming moments, and the small things that sometimes helped bring calm back into the world. Slowly and gently, she placed her tray on the counter. Without drawing attention, she dimmed the lights above the corner section where Milo sat. Then she walked to the espresso machine and turned it off. The sudden quiet softened the sharp edges of the cafe. Step by step, Elena approached the table. Adrian looked up, ready to apologize or explain, but Elena simply gave him a calm, reassuring nod. She knelt a few feet away from Milo, careful not to invade his space. Instead of speaking, she slowly pulled a small folded napkin from her pocket. With quiet patience, she began folding it into shapes. First a triangle, then a tiny paper boat. Her movements were slow, predictable, and calm. For several moments, Milo continued crying, his body shaking with sensory overload. But eventually, through the blur of panic, his eyes noticed the small white boat resting on the table. Elena gently slid it closer. No sudden movements, no loud words, just patience. Milo and Apa's cries slowly softened. His breathing became slower, less frantic. The tiny paper boat floated gently across the table as Elena pushed it forward with one finger. Then she made another shape, a paper bird. The cafe remained silent as everyone watched the impossible happen. The boy who moments ago seemed unreachable slowly leaned forward. His hands stopped shaking. His eyes followed the movement of the little paper figures. For the first time since entering the cafe, Milo was calm. Adrian stared in disbelief. Years of specialists, expensive treatments, and endless appointments had never produced a moment quite like this. And yet a waitress, with nothing but patience and understanding, had done what no one else could. Milo carefully picked up the paper bird. His fingers turned it over slowly, studying every fold. For a brief moment, the overwhelming world around him felt safe again. Adrian felt tears forming in his eyes, something he rarely allowed himself to show. The power, the wealth, the success, none of it mattered compared to the simple peace now resting on his son and Apa's face. Elena simply smiled and quietly returned to her work as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But Adrian would never forget that moment. Sometimes the greatest miracles do not come from experts, technology, or money. Sometimes they come from ordinary people who understand the power of patience, kindness, and empathy. And sometimes, the person who changes everything is someone the world barely notices. Before this story ends, we have a small request for you. If this moment touched your heart, please comment the word and quote kindness and quote below to show that compassion still matters in this world. Adrian later returned to the cafe many times, not as a businessman seeking quiet meals, but as a father who had discovered something priceless. Milo slowly began recognizing the place, the calm corner table, and the gentle waitress who folded paper birds. In a noisy world that often forgets how fragile some hearts can be, one simple act of understanding created a safe place for a child who needed it most. And if this story moved you even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to Dremek's Story, because sometimes the smallest kindness can change a life forever.